Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to bring you guys a video that has been requested by a few people, and I am so excited to talk about this trope because it is literally one of my all-time top favorite tropes for romance novels, and that is the teach me trope, or lessons in seduction, sex lessons, however you want to refer to it. So let's just go ahead and jump into these recommendations. I'm definitely going to do a part 2 at some point because I know I'm going to keep reading more and more of these kinds of romances, and yeah, definitely if you guys have more recommendations, please leave them in the comments below, not only for myself but for other people that are watching. So let's just dive right into it. My top favorite romance with the lessons in seduction trope has to be The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shupe. I read this last November and this book like knocked me on my ass. Oh my god, I love this book so much. We are centering on our main characters, Kit and Alice. So Kit is definitely known as a ladies' man, a playboy. He's also kind of a flirty, irreverent hero. We love those types of heroes. I'm also planning on doing a recommendation video for that trope as well because I'm just obsessed with those heroes. And then we have Alice, who is very shy. Her mom is the worst. She is terrible. And so Alice desperately wants to find a husband, mainly to just get away from her mom, but she has no idea how to attract and seduce a husband. And so she just goes to Kit's room one night and she asks him to give her lessons in seduction so that she can find a husband. And so this becomes like a friends to lovers type romance, and this is just such a beautiful romance, but it's also really hot as well. And one of the things that I love about this romance that happens a lot in these sexy lessons romances is that Kit would give her an instruction and then she does it so well that it takes him aback and he's like, oh my god, I am becoming obsessed with this woman when I never thought that I would fall in love with someone. Like, I just love that vibe so much. But let's move on from Kit and Alice. I could talk about them for hours. So I'm gonna stick to historical romances for now, and then I'll move into my contemporary recommendations. First up, we have Her Virgin Duke by Nicola Davidson. You guys are sleeping on Nicola Davidson. She has amazing erotic historical romances. She mainly writes novellas, but she does have some full novels as well, though I haven't read any of her full novels yet. But this one, as you can tell from the title, we have Bennett, who is a duke. He is, I believe, like 25, something like that, and he's still a virgin. He's very stuffy, very awkward. Basically, he has these mentors in his life that have pressured him into staying a virgin, basically. But he loses a wager and he has to go visit this pleasure club where we have Delilah, who owns said pleasure club. She is known as the Mistress of Sin. So immediately sparks fly between the two of them. They start getting together. She teaches him things and they very soon realize that Bennett's actually a dominant, and it's hot. It's amazing. Love it, love it, love it. Next up, we have One Good Earl Deserves a Lover by Sarah McLean. So this one is about Pippa, and she is like a shy, bookish, nerdy heroine. She's more of a scientist, I would say, than anything else. And she is practically engaged to this guy, but she wants to experience the scandalous side of London before she has to get married. And so she goes to this notorious gambling hell where we have Cross, our hero, who is the bookkeeper for said club. And so she propositions him to teach her the ways of sex, basically. So this one's definitely more of a slow burn romance. Like, yes, they have their lessons, but they don't even kiss until like the 70% mark. So Sarah McLean definitely makes you wait, and that did get a little bit frustrating throughout. But there's a lot going on with Cross's character. He definitely pushes her away a lot. But this was still really good. I mean, I gave it 4 stars and I definitely would still recommend it. Next up, I have Scandalous Passions by Nicola Davidson. So this one is a poly romance about Lachlan, Janet, and Marjorie. This one we have a femdom who is Janet, and basically she was one of the mistresses of the King of Scotland. She gets sent away because the king gets married. Lachlan was one of his guards, so the king sends him with her, and there is Marjorie, who I believe is like one of the king's wards or something, and so basically he just sends the 3 of them off together to go live in one of his old castles or something. And sparks fly between the 3 of them. There was already a relationship going on between Lachlan and Janet, but then they bring Marjorie into the mix, and so they teach her everything there is to know about sex and intimacy because she is a virgin at the beginning of the novella. A fun time, not my absolute favorite book by Nicola Davidson, but like I said, still really enjoyable. Next up, we have The Duke's Stolen Bride by Sophie Jordan. So this one centers around Marion, who's the oldest of 3 sisters. Their parents have passed away a long time ago. They are now desperate for money, and so Marion decides that the best way for her to support her siblings is to become a courtesan, or like a high-class escort, basically. But she has no idea how to seduce men, right? So she goes to Nate, who is the local duke, because I think he's known as like a ladies' man, and she propositions him into teaching her lessons of seduction. Once again, this is hot. I really enjoy Sophie Jordan's historical romances for the most part. This was just a really fun time. Next up, I have Duke, I'd Like to F. This is a novella anthology, but there are 2 novellas in this book that use the sexy lessons trope. The first one is Education and Pleasure by Eva Lee. So this one is about Cecilia, who is the governess to Owen's younger sister. So Owen is a duke, obviously, and he's like 10 years younger than her, because I think she's in like her early 30s, he's in his early 20s, and so yeah, they decide to get together and she will teach him her ways. So good. Eva Lee knows how to write like the older woman, younger man trope so well done. And then the other novella that I would highly recommend is Duke for Hire, once again by Nicola Davidson. This one is the opposites though, where we have a heroine, Ada, who's about 10 years younger than Jasper, our hero, who once again is a duke, and she is resigned to spinsterhood because her crazy ass clergyman father just keeps chasing away any and all suitors. But she decides that even though she's a spinster, she can still enjoy the fun parts of life. She ends up going to our hero Jasper, the hero, for some lessons because he is like the perfect, discreet, and expert tutor. He meets all of her requirements, and yeah, both these novellas are phenomenal. Highly recommend them. So I have a couple more historical romance recommendations. Now, in both of these books, it's not that the hero and heroine make like an actual deal for lessons in any way. It's just there's some really great steamy scenes in this where education is happening. I'll just say that. So the first one is A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa Dare. I love Colin and Minerva with my whole heart. We have Colin, who is a Viscount. He is just a mess. He does not know what he's doing with his life. And then we have Minerva, who is a very bookish scientist heroine. She wants to go to this like anthropology or paleontology convention, I believe, somewhere maybe in Scotland if I'm not mistaken. And so her and Colin do end up making this deal that they will travel to this convention together and they will pretend to be engaged. And there are just some really great scenes where Colin teaches Minerva how to kiss and all of those good things. Just a really fun time. Next up, we have 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. This one is about Callie, who has resigned herself to spinsterhood, but she makes this list of things, like a bucket list, things that she wants to do before she dies, basically. Now, she still wants to live her life even though she's a spinster, and so she goes to Gabriel, who was a marquis. She had a crush on him like 10 years before like the main part of the story, and he agrees to help her with her list if she helps him bring her half-sister into society. And so while he's helping her with this list, some interesting lessons kind of happen along the way. Next up, we have another all-time top favorite romance book of mine. That is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is like a reverse Pretty Woman situation where we have Michael, our hero, who is an escort, and then we have Stella, our heroine, who hires him because she's on the autism spectrum and she kind of has no interest in romance or anything like that, but she's feeling the pressure from her family to get married and have children. But she has absolutely no idea how to date or flirt with men or seduce them or anything like that. And so that's why she decides to hire an escort. And so this is just such a wonderful romance. I love Michael and Stella with my whole heart. I relate to Stella in a lot of ways. Like I said, one of my top favorite romances of all time. Like, this just does the lessons trope so well. Next up, we have Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. So this one is about Gabriel and Ellie. And this plot is very interesting because this one's more about intimacy lessons than sex or seduction lessons, because we have Gabriel. He was kidnapped when he was a kid and he was held captive for years, and he is very much attracted to women, but he is just very uncomfortable with women, and he's very uncomfortable with people touching him in general. And so he goes to Ellie, who is a local stripper, and he pays her to just help him feel more comfortable around women, and things just go on from there. This isn't my absolute favorite book by Mia Sheridan, but I really loved the unique plot and I thought that it was really well done. Next up, we have an MM romance that, this is just such a sweet and sexy friends to lovers romance. So this one is about Theo and Camden. So they've been friends for years, and Camden has like been in love with Theo for years. But Theo is about to attend the wedding of his ex-boyfriend, so he desperately needs a date for this wedding so he doesn't look like a loser. And so Camden offers to match him up with his boss. So Camden and his boss work at this adult sex toy shop. And so Theo has like no knowledge of sex toys, so he feels kind of intimidated about being matched up with Camden's boss. And so Camden offers to teach Theo all about toys, and it's just amazing. It's sexy, it's sweet, it's everything you could want from this friends to lovers romance. So good. Next up, we have Blind Side by Candy Steiner. I read this one pretty recently. This is definitely the book that finally inspired me to make this video. So this one is about Clay and Gianna. This is a friends to lovers fake dating romance. This is new adult, so this takes place in college. Clay is a football player and Gianna works for like the PR team of their football team. And so Clay, at the very beginning of the book, he gets broken up with by his long-term girlfriend. Like, he thought they were gonna get married. He was in love with this girl. So they make this deal to fake date because Clay wants to make his ex jealous so that she'll want him back. And then Gianna has a crush on this local musician. So they make this deal, they start fake dating, and Gianna is really nervous though about actually dating this musician because she's a virgin, she has no experience with sex. And so she fully trusts Clay and she goes to him and asks if he will teach her all about sex and intimacy, and he does, and it's so much fun, so hot. I love that Gianna loves reading romance novels, like smutty romance novels, and she tabs all of her favorite scenes, and so Clay ends up stealing some of her books and takes notes from those scenes, and let's just say he uses that knowledge to his advantage. It's so, man, this romance is so freaking good. Clay can get it any day of the week, and I loved Gianna as well because she just really swept Clay off his feet. It's just such a great book. Highly recommend. Next up, we have Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. So this one's about Frankie and Jay. So Frankie is a wheelchair user. She runs this podcast. I think it's called like the All Access podcast, and I think a lot of the episodes talk about accessibility with sex. And so I believe one of her listeners requests that she does an episode about shibari, which is the art of rope tying in BDSM, but she knows nothing about shibari. However, there is Jay, who is like a friend of hers, and he works at the local BDSM club, and he is an expert in shibari. And so she goes to a class of his, and sparks fly between the two of them. This one is just, it's so good. The audiobook is amazing, by the way, because Jacob Morgan, one of my favorite audiobook narrators, narrates the hero's POV. So good. Last but not least, I have BDSM centered romances where one of the main characters is teaching the other all about BDSM, basically. So the first one is Picture Perfect Cowboy. This one is about Jason, who is a famous, I believe he's a bull rider if I'm not mistaken, and then Simone, who is a photographer. They meet when she is the photographer for a cover shoot that he's doing. And so Simone is a submissive, Jason is definitely a dominant, but he's never explored BDSM before. So as the two of them start dating, Simone quickly realizes this about him and starts teaching him about how to be a dominant. It's so well done. I love how Tiffany Rice writes about BDSM. I just feel like she does it so well. Last but certainly not least, we have Contradictions by Ampersand. This is a Dramini fan fiction, and it is still one of my absolute favorite BDSM romances. To this day, I am absolutely obsessed with the Draco and Hermione in this fan fiction. So basically the plot of this one centers around Hermione. She's basically very frustrated with her dating life. She's finding it very hard to find pleasure with a partner when being intimate. And so she decides to go to this really exclusive sex club to hopefully find a partner who will help her out with that, basically. And so she ends up getting matched up with Draco, who is a very experienced dominant. She's more of a submissive, and so their meet cute is very interesting because she glamours herself the first time she goes to this club, so he doesn't realize that it's Hermione but she eventually like drops the glamour accidentally. He realizes who she is, she realizes who he is, she freaks out and immediately apparates away, and things go on from there. This just has some of the best BDSM representation that I have ever read. I love how Draco is with Hermione in this. Like, this is just fantastic. There's also a really interesting mystery going on within the magical world that I thought was really well done as well, but the main draw of this for me is the fantastic romance. Cannot recommend this highly enough. So that's going to be it for this Teach Me Romances recommendation video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of these books that I brought up, or like I said, if you want to leave recommendations for this trope. I would very much appreciate that. I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!